Since the Victorian Age, humanity has given in to the illusion that there is a natural world which can be measured and understood, and through close observation, a resemblance of natural truth can be gained. Every corner of the world needed to be measured and catalogued. Through the times of further industrialization and the development of our modern society, many deemed truths of bygone eras irrelevant and dangerous, so they discarded them without asking. On the other hand, they accepted truths from periods more aligned with the political landscape of modernity without question. One question nobody seemed to pose and no one ever again seemed to doubt was the shape of our world. Although our daily experiences do not suggest that the Earth is a globe, everyone seemed to just believe it as a fact. Until one brave American decided to research matters more thoroughly. Samuel Rowbotham, also known as Parallax. Why has modern science failed to recognize the true shape of the Earth? Don't astronomy and the space programs clearly disprove what humanity believed in for centuries? The Flat Earth theory states that modern science is ill-equipped to answer the question because of zeticism. A zetetic forms the question, then immediately sets to work making observations and performing experiments to answer this question. It turns out, we have been asking the wrong questions all along. The atmoplane. The atmoplane, or atmo layer, is a series of gas layers above the inhabited part of the Earth. If the Earth is finite, as shown in this model, the atmoplane gets thinner and less dense towards the edges, where the Arctic ice wall stops the atmoplane from flowing off the edge. If the infinite Earth hypothesis is true, the atmoplane would possibly extend as infinitely as the Earth does. The atmoplane is separated into the following layers. The tropo layer, where most of the regular aircraft travel, up to 11 miles. The strato layer, the highest ever reached layer by humans that can be reasonably confirmed, up to 30 miles. The extent of the mesolayer and ionolayer are still debated. Their existence is assumed by the phenomenon of meteors and polar lights. The cover-up. The fake space programs of NASA and the Russians are the reason why the weak sphere model has been propagated during the 20th century. NASA doesn't hide the true shape of the Earth. During their early fakes, they showed pictures of the spheroid Earth and are now stuck with it. Organizations like the United Nations even show the true shape of the Earth on their flag. Because the UN was founded before NASA, the designer of the flag took the model of the monopole flat Earth as a representation. Although by the mid-60s, most of those institutions had recognized the hoaxes of the space programs, they continued to support it. The immense sums of money that are invested by governments and corporations in supposed space programs are used, to a large extent, to pay off the officials and many people who know about the true shape of the Earth, as well as so-called educators on TV. In truth, an intricate web of lies has been spun to obstruct the public's clear view on reality. Space programs. In the 1950s, during the Cold War, the two opposing blocs of the totalitarian USSR and the free world under the leadership of the United States started the competition of the supposed space race. Why space and its supposed conquest was so important was explained by Senate Majority Leader and later President Lyndon B. Johnson. Quote, "Control of space means control of the world, the position of total control over the Earth that lies somewhere in outer space." This statement proves space was seen as an ultimate achievement, primarily on the grounds of propaganda and the invoking of fear of war capabilities. A few months later, NASA was established. The Soviets, meanwhile, resorted to their first hoaxes with a supposed Sputnik satellite. This was in reality just a radio transmission that was broadcasted by a high-altitude aircraft, as previously uncovered documents at the end of the USSR in 1990 show. However, these documents have since been confiscated by various actors. Most of the rockets tested since the beginning of the space race have been failures. Some observers see in modern rocket launches nothing more than oversized effect shows that shoot a rocket a few thousand miles into the atmoplane until it is out of sight for most of the observers, where it deploys its parachutes and drops into the sea or is destroyed. What was at first just a game of intimidation by posturing with so-called achievements in space travel developed into a huge financial scam during the 80s and beyond to the modern day, where companies pay for satellites that would supposedly be put into orbit for up to $10,000 per ton of payload. Hereby, not only do satellite manufacturers and NASA profit from the fraud, but also other new players such as SpaceX. Developing countries such as India also participate in the scam, in the hope that the huge sums involved would benefit their economies. A large community of citizen scientists do an excellent job in debunking many of the new fantasy space travel images from NASA and other agencies that are simply produced in their movie studios, while the transmission of satellites are just relayed through a global network of radio towers. There is no flat Earth conspiracy, but a fake space flight cabal that uses the illusion of space travel to make trillions worldwide. The Antarctic Ice Wall. At the outer edge of the world, we find the Antarctic Ice Wall. The wall was first discovered in 1841 by the British explorer James Clark Ross when he circumnavigated the edge of the known Earth. Though he thought himself to be at the southern pole because he simply followed the magnetic field which develops outwards from the center. The ice wall is, along most of its length, 150 meters high and, by the description of Ross, an impenetrable shield of ice, snow, and rock. Several expeditions tried to reach the presumed South Pole until the Norwegian Roland Amundsen staged a successful journey to the South Pole at one of the few places where the ice wall can be accessed. Beyond the ice wall exists a mountain range up to 2,000 meters high. Beyond that, the theories vary. Some predict that there is a rim. Others theorize that the world stretches indefinitely. Today, a select few ships can visit the outer border of the planar rim. It gets sold as the southern tip of the Earth, but evidence suggests it is only the furthest from the center. If the Arctic ice wall is the outer point of the world, it cannot be clearly determined due to the fact that no one has ever crossed the mountain range to our knowledge. The extent of the Terran plain cannot be reasonably determined. The Summer Gate. In this model, the Terran plane is represented as a solid disk with an end and a start. However, this is not the only model. Out of a sense of fairness, we should mention the infinite Earth theory. It states that the Terran plane is not finite, and that beyond the ice wall, other lands exist. The most popular of these theories is the Summer Gate theory. It states that the ice wall just near New Zealand melts during the summer and leaves passage open to another ring of continents on the Terran plane. These continents are lit by another sol, called Bol, or Nemesis. The transfer will only be possible during summer as long as Bol and Sol are near each other, so only during a short night a ship might traverse the gate and re-emerge in the light of Bol on the other side. Traveling to this gate is near impossible. While one can traverse along the Arctic ice wall with the approval of the UN, no expedition is allowed near the supposed Summer Gate location. This gives the theory credibility and raises one question. If the Summer Gate is real, what might lie beyond its path? Some theorize that the mythical places of Atlantis and Hyperborea, or many of the other lost continents of history, are just behind the Arctic ice wall. The Moon. The Moon is a revolving sphere. It has a diameter of 32 miles and is located approximately 3,000 miles above the surface of the Earth. The Moon is thought to be spherical due to a slight rocking back and forth over its monthly cycle. The Moon does not emit light by itself. It is lit by the Sun. It moves from 3,000 miles to 2,000 miles over the duration of a month, thus causing the lunar cycle we observe as new moon, half moon, and full moon. It is still debated by many of the planar astronomers if the Moon has a surface sufficient for anyone to stand upon it. Parallax theorized that the Moon might not be as real as it seems. For example, a strong, unnatural glow around its edge can be observed by anyone with a telescope or camera with sufficient zoom capabilities. Some citizen scholars investigating this interesting natural phenomena also agree that the Moon is either a projection or an atmospheric reflection of a body closely orbiting the rim of the Terran plane. But for the model of the monopole flat Earth, the question of the moon's solidity is not relevant. In 1969, the moon was the setting of a fictional worldwide television broadcast in which the United States of America, more specifically NASA, claimed to have landed on the moon. The hoax was discovered by independent researchers, but many of them have since been silenced by NASA agents or pressured into publicly stating that they were wrong. The Sun. The Sun is a revolving sphere. It has a diameter of 32 miles and is located approximately 3,000 miles above the surface of the Earth. The Sun's area of light is similar to the spotlight of a searchlight. This means that only certain portions of the Earth are illuminated at a time. It also describes how night and day arise on a flat Earth. The apparent view of rising and setting are caused by perspective, just as a flock of birds overhead will descend into the horizon as they fly into the distance. Together with the moon, the Sun rotates around a mysterious central point of rotation.